Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So again, we come back to another session of IMU Alumni Sharing Session. So today we're going to discuss about, the topic is basically the problem with sleep through the pandemic. So of course, we have invited two guest alumni. Both of them are actually graduated from our IMU program, Psychology. And we are quite fortunate to have them here. So if you find that this session is going to be helpful, please help us to share. Of course, do not be stingy to give us like, love, comment, question, and so on. We will attend to you in a short while. And of course, always leave us a comment if you have listened to it. Probably a hi would be nice. We will respond to you as well. Okay. So without further ado, probably just to share with you how we come up with this topic. So actually, it so happened that I approached Jumi, one of the guest alumni here, to ask about what can we actually talk from his experience. And when he actually brainstormed and so on, probably he mentioned that sleep is the best topic, that is a suitable topic that to discuss nowadays. All right. So this is where we come up with this topic and discuss sleep for today's session. Okay. And later on, I'm going to introduce both of them formally back to this platform. And today we have Junwei, we have Carmen on board, and they will provide their input about sleep. Right? Probably just give you an introduction. So when we look through journal articles and so on, we realize that yes, sleep is indeed an important issue that we need to discuss. And from this scientist, Professor Matthew Walker have highlighted how important sleep it is, not just about personal health, physical health, mental health. It even actually affect business, world economy, and so on. So he also published a book to again re-emphasize the importance of sleep. And of course, when we look into literature, it has told us is that inadequate sleep basically can be considered as a global problem. It's a global health issue, not just a certain country, but instead the whole world. And US CDC has even classified insufficient sleep as a public health and epidemic. So it's something that is alarming. But how about in Malaysia? And of course, we get to know that based on this graphic, it's a very nice survey done in 2018 have told us is that if we look at the center part of the graphic, average Malaysian adult sleep only 6.3 hours. If we are looking into recommendation compared to recommendation 7 to 8 hours, this definitely is not sufficient. And almost half of the Malaysian adult have issue of sleeping. Okay, so we can see that sleep is something that we really have to address today. And they even have scientists has challenged to mention that probably insufficient sleep syndrome be classified as a non-communicable disease. So basically, some of the example of non-communicable disease would be diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, cancer, and so on. So when we group all this together and compare with all these non-communicable disease, so it highlighted, it re-emphasized again, it's important for us to address insufficient sleep or to discuss about sleep in general. And hence we come up with these topics. And today, our session, we're going to discuss all about sleep with the title, The Problem with Sleep Through the Pandemics. And today we have two guests come on board. And of course, we will introduce them one by one. So first one is Mr. Liu Junwei. So in here, I will address him as Junwei. He is one of the IMU graduate. He graduated from the program Psychology. And during this program, he actually received an award, Jun Sahil Merit Award. He also received DLIS. He is also the first class honor in graduation. And currently, he is actually studying Master of Professional Counseling in Monash University, Malaysia. Come to his last semester. All right. And of course, by his passion, he's looking into advance the mental health for marginalized community, especially for the LGBT community. And for information, he actually published quite a number of journal articles addressing this community, LGBT community. Okay, so our next speaker, we have Carmen. Miss Chong Darwin, and he also our graduate from a psychology program, and she also received the dean list as well as a first class honor. Okay, currently she is actually studying a master in clinical psychology in UKM. Again, he will come to the last term, going to graduate very soon, and she come in with the passion to advance the mental health of marginalized population, and her interest is in neuropsychology. So we are so grateful that we have both of them come on board to offer us input on probably tips to discuss about sleep. And yes, without further ado, so before we come to the key topic today, so probably we want to hear from Jun and Carmen. How are you today?
Doing great here.
Yeah, I'm fine. With cozy weather.
Yeah, indeed. Probably to hear from both of you, since today our topic is about sleep. All right. So during this pandemic, did you hear anyone to talk with you about sleep issue and so on?
Right. I think what you have pointed out just now is quite crucial, as in how sleep is often neglected in many sense. And that, a lot of people are actually not they are not enjoying the amount or quality of sleep that they have, right? And especially with the onset of MCO, right? There are so many problems going on, you know, and then people start to work from home, right? And that begins the blurring of boundaries of work and personal life, you know. We work even after work hours, we continue to receive message, emails, WhatsApp, right? And we're always in the same environment, you know. My bedroom right now is where I work, right? So this is my bedroom. And the problem with it is that, you know, I'm always with this light. And when we are always being in the same place and the same kind of environment, lighting and so on, we kind of get disoriented in the sense of time, you know. We reduce our sensitivity towards time. It's like, what day is today? You know, if you don't step out of your house, you won't know, right? And that's quite a big problem. Probably, I wonder, what do you think about this? What about you?
What I think is that since the COVID pandemic started, right? So I believe a lot of us are actually experiencing stress and anxiety. Yeah, either we know it or we don't. That actually could affect our sleep. So I think for me, like personal experience, like the first thing that I would worry about is the health of my family member and also myself. Because initially we did not know much about the new disease, like where does it come from, how is it transmitted, are we protecting ourselves correctly, so on and so forth. So I believe most of us, right, can relate to this, especially when we are staying with small children or elderly. Okay, so other worries that I often heard about are related to work or finance, where some currently may be experiencing some readjustments in terms of work shift, job scope, salary, or finding a new job. So this readjustment could also lead to somehow relationship conflict between family members, which could also double up the stress. Okay, so in terms of talking about relationship as well, like in terms of personal relationship, some people will tell me that they feel more lonely or isolated due to the social distancing. Okay, and yeah, and so in order to stay connected, right, I believe a lot of us has brought our communication to virtual platform, social media, like what we are doing now. Yeah, we have online workshop, online classes, and online meeting. And also, like what Junbei mentioned just now, this inevitably cause blurring of boundary in work life, and also the increase of time in using our phone, tablets, and laptops. And this could also lead to some other problems. I think some of you might have guessed it, is excessive screen time that could affect our sleep. So these are the problems like stress and anxiety and also excessive screen time in general.
Wow. So it means is that during this pandemic, it has really changed probably our sleep pattern, even our sleep quality in that sense. All right, good.
Yes.
So probably we will go to our point is that actually, since our topic is about sleep, what is actually sleep in general, or how when we are sleeping, how is our brain actually working? Is our brain is really working, or is this really working? How it actually works? What sort of process is happening in our brain then when we are asleep?
Right. I think let me take on this question, right? So what is sleep, right? So sleep is actually kind of like we are in this natural state of rest at the time, and there is actually a lot of processes going on in our brain as we are sleeping. It's not that when we sleep and then our brain is like doing nothing. No, there's actually a lot of processes happening there, right? Because in our daily living, there is a lot of wear and tear, and sleep is when it kind of like repairs it. Yeah. And let me try and share this. Right. Yeah. So as you can see, so this is what we call, this is not my original creation, all right? So this is credit goes to this place, yeah? It's not mine, yeah? So as you can look at this graph over here, so in fact, when we sleep, right? So we actually go through 4 stages of sleep, okay? So you can see here stage 1 and stage 2, it's actually what we call light sleep, all right? Whereas stage 3 and stage 4 is what we call deep sleep. And so what happens in a typical day, when we go to sleep, we actually go through these 4 stages of sleep. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and like this, we call it one cycle. All right, we complete one cycle of sleep. And if you notice, there is only like 3 cycles of deep sleep, right? And then after that, it's light sleep over here, right? So during stage 1, right? So a lot of time, when you start to fall asleep and then you feel the sensation that you suddenly fall down into like a deep dark hole, right? So that is during stage 1, all right? So we have that kind of knee-jerk experience or this sudden fall experience because we fall asleep too quickly, right? And our body cannot just catch up with that. But no worries, no big deal, right? To stage 2, yeah? So it's where we begin to kind of like lose the sense of the environment. We start to shut down in terms of our senses, all right? And over here, we are still in the light sleep. So when we are in light sleep, what it means is that someone can wake us up quite easily. Like, for example, if you're sleeping and you forgot to lock your door, if someone just barged in, then you will be like, what? Yeah. So at the time, we are in light sleep. Whereas coming to stage 3, stage 3 is already in deep sleep, all right? So if you are taking nap and someone wakes you up at this point, that's when you will feel very grumpy and feel very irritated. But if they wake you up at stage 2, you're like, okay, it's still fine, it's not so bad. Yeah. And when it comes to stage 4 is the most vital part of our sleep. This is where our body goes into this restorative mood, and it starts to fix your tissues and repair things in your body, right? And then a lot of us, we actually dream every day, all right? It's just that whether you remember it or not. Yeah. So dreaming happens at this stage, this REM stage. So it's quite brief, you can see. Yeah. But this REM stage, it kind of go longer as we are about to wake up, right? So when we dream, it's also our brain is at work, So one interesting interesting thing about dream is that sometimes, most of the time in our dream, we are actually moving around, we are walking and all that, right? But our body will not move. Yeah. This is because our body is in this mode of paralysis. Yeah. And even though we are moving in our dreams, but then we don't actually move our physical body. Yeah. And I just think that one of the things that is quite interesting about sleep is that I'm not sure if you have experienced before, sometimes you feel like you already wake up, you are quite clear about the environment around you, but then you just can't move. Have you experienced that before?
Not really.
Yeah.
I think I heard from my friends though.
Yeah.
So some of them they will feel like there is some ghost haunting them and all that.
Correct,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what we call the sleep paralysis. All right. So we feel like something very dangerous is going to happen, and we feel extremely anxious, and then we feel that, oh my god, I'm going to die. We can feel our heartbeat rising very quickly.
That's right.
Actually, you are physically safe, more than likely lah. Okay, just that the problem is that our brain already wake up, but then our body haven't wake up.
It's not ready yet.
So that kind of disparity that makes us feel like, oh, why is it I'm going to die or something?
Yeah.
So that kind of the effect carries over and make us feel very anxious about it. Just remind yourself, okay, it's actually you are safe, more than likely. Okay, no one is going to harm you. All right.
So it means it's not haunted by ghosts of some sort.
No.
So this is what we call
it's quite
sleep
an
paralysis.
interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, we learn something new.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
That's all from me for that part. Yeah.
Any other to add on from Carmen?
I think Junwei already pretty much described the stages of sleep, like what is sleep actually about. So pretty much about it, I think.
I guess the sleep process as mentioned, and there's always this like, it's not always linear, so there's always like a wave kind of wave-like kind of situation happening when you sleep. Am I correct?
Actually our brain will actually go through a few different brain waves when we sleep. Like at first, maybe it's when you're about to sleep is what we call alpha wave. Then beta is when you're awake, and then when you're in deep sleep it's called delta wave. But that's actually something that go through our brain, and it's also concurrent with the stages of sleep where we need to go through a few cycles to get adequate sleep.
I see. So in what stage as you consider that our brain is really at the actual sleep? So it means really at resting mode, that kind of. Is it really because it says that a lot of people say that they must be in a deep sleep in order to really get the actual rest. Is it really happening during the process as you explained just now?
Yeah, it actually happen because it's a cycle. So like in order to have a complete sleep, you have to go through that kind of pattern. That's what we call a quality sleep.
Okay. So it means if it didn't complete the cycle, so the sleep is not in a good quality then. Can I say as
not less quality. Less.
Okay.
It doesn't do what we intended to do.
I see. Good. So just now we mentioned that the cycle of sleep. We also talk about how's the sleep pattern like. Okay. So probably you will lead us to the subsequent question later on. We will discuss in detail, I guess, when we screen down more. Let me get myself into a screen again. Yes. So probably this is where that just now I mentioned about sleep, and then we have a bit touched on about suboptimal or good sleep. But actually, is there any such a definition to mention a good quality sleep per se? Is it really looking into by hours, or is it looking into the whole sleep cycle in order to consider it as a good sleep?
Okay. So a good sleep, right? Actually, sleep is a process that interact between the stages. And in order to go through the stages, actually we need a certain amount of time, like what Junwei has mentioned just now. Like a complete cycle of sleep is actually around 90 minutes, right, Junwei? 90 minutes. So actually, both of them are actually interacting with each other. So that's why when we say a good sleep is only not related to the total amount of sleep, but also to the quality of sleep. Let's say even if I sleep for 8 hours, if the quality of sleep, if I didn't go through all the stages of sleep, it doesn't consider as a good sleep as well. Okay, so that's why it needs to involve by all the stages that Junwei mentioned just now, and also importantly is with a significant amount of time in deep sleep, like the stage where our body is trying to repair our tears and wears and try to rejuvenate our bodies. Okay, so on the other hand, if you say what is a poor sleep or poor quality sleep, means that normally we'll have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, or maybe wake up much earlier than we intend to. Okay, so in general, conclusion, a good sleep actually it concerns about the quality as well as the total amount of sleep, and also the time we spend awake during the daytime.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's
so
really
maybe Junwei have something to add on this.
Yeah. So let me add on, right? So for a lot of us, and then we will be wondering, so some people, I have had classmate that says that she sleeps around 4 hours per day, So that kind of that kind of confuses us. So how many hours do we actually need in sleep, right?
Correct.
So actually for adults, right, and for especially for young adults, around 18 to 25 years old, so some of us, we may need as little as some of us, I'm so young. Some of us may need as little as, for example, 6 hours of sleep, all right? Whereas some will need up to like 10 or maybe 11 hours to just fully restore their energy. And actually, the amount of hours of sleep that we need for each person, it actually differs. And you need to be your own judge to judge whether if you feel alert after 8 hours of sleep, or if you benefit from sleeping 1 or 2 hours more or less, right? And actually, the best quality of sleep, it also depends on whether if we could experience through the full cycle of sleep, which means going from stage 1, stage 4, that 90 minutes of sleep.
So it's kind of individualized in that sense. So some people may require longer sleep, some will require shorter sleep. The key is that after, when they wake up, how do they feel at that point of time? Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And we also get to know, probably when we do some reading, age is also a factor. They also mentioned that if they become elders and become more senior by age, it seems that their sleep time or the time for sleep is actually shorter in that sense.
Yes.
So it's kind of a very personalized thing. So we can't really give a one size fit all recommendation in that sense.
Yes.
All right? Good. So when we talk about good sleep or when they wake up to feel fresh and so on, is it a particular like a screening tools or particular question that they can ask themselves so that they get to know that they really have a good sleep per se? Because it sounds like it's a very personal thing. So beside knowing that whether it feels fresh or not, any sort of parameter they can look into.
I'm not going to talk so much about the assessment part, but what comes to my mind as I share about it is also some of us, right, we will feel even maybe after 8 hours of sleep, but let's say if we always have nightmare, right? So even though we feel we have got the 8 hours of sleep and then we are still not sleeping enough, right? And then maybe even if we sleep up to 10 hours, we still have the problem with nightmare. So in that case, it will turn into a different story already, because it's we also need to address, what is the nightmare trying to tell you about. It's more of the unconscious thing that will most likely benefit from therapy. Yeah.
Okay, I see. All right. So it seems like if they really have nightmare, then they will really have to, and I think it's having nightmare continuously in a chronic situation. So this is where that they really need to address about it. Okay. All right. So then with that, so we talk about good sleep, and just now we also mentioned about nightmare and so on. This is where that we lead it to the another things is what if we are not getting enough sleep? How does that affect us? Or when we say inadequate sleep, what does that mean by inadequate? Can we define it by hours, or we define it in any other way?
I think inadequacy, like I think in the previous question, we have discussed about it, like inadequate means having a poor quality of sleep. So it could be like what Junwei has said, in the middle of the night, you are disturbed by nightmare. So it could actually keep you from returning to sleep. Alright, so that's when you have inadequate sleep, or you don't have enough amount of time to sleep, maybe due to some other reason. So that's why we call inadequacy is equate to poor quality of sleep, which makes someone feels that they are not refreshed and still tired when they wake up. Okay, so in terms of how does it affect us Okay, so sleep actually can affect us in many ways. That's why sleep deprivation has been actually used as a form of torture since last time until now. Right. So to put it simply, right, I will put this in the concept of A, B, C. So A is affect, means our mood. B is behavior and body. And C is cognition, means it's our mind. Okay, so now let's look at A first lah, means our affect, our mood. So having inadequate sleep or insufficient sleep or being sleep deprived actually will make us feel grumpy. Okay, I believe all of us will experience that. Like if you are sleeping and then someone suddenly wake you up, you'll be like, why do you wake me up like that? Yeah, so it's grumpy. And it will make us feel more frustrated and maybe emotional. Okay, and in the long term, it may lead to anxiety or depression. Okay, not to mention that during this pandemic, if we are already in a constant anxiety or stress, sleep deprivation will actually make it worse. Okay, so that's a fact. And then next would be B, behavior and our body, right? So of course, if we don't have enough sleep, our body will feel sleepy and our body will feel tired and fatigued. And this could actually influence how we act as well. Like for example, if we are feeling tired, right? So we may want to spend more time resting on our bed, under our blanket, instead of talking to people, engaging with others. Okay, so in the long term, we may feel disconnected with others and even become more emotional. And when this happens, we will tend to sleep more just to avoid that unpleasant feelings of disconnected with others. Okay, so it will end up in an endless cycle. Okay, so that's first part that how it could also affect our interpersonal relationship, right? Okay, so other than that, maybe some of you, I think all of us, okay, we experience this. Like when we spend our time burning midnight oil, maybe to rush through assignments or work, okay, maybe we'll feel that we will fall sick easily. Got or not? Got or not? Okay. So other being stressed, right? So sleep can actually affect or changes how our body works. Okay, to make us more susceptible or vulnerable to illness or disease as it weaken our immune system. So some of the common chronic disease that we might get are diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, or heart disease if we don't have enough sleep in the long term. Okay, so that's how sleep actually affect our body and behavior. Okay, next would be a C, cognition, means our mind. Okay, so in any point of life, right, when you wake up, have you ever feel that your mind is quite foggy, like there's a mist, like you are not sure whether you wake up already or I'm still asleep like that?
It's in the middle of blurriness.
Yeah, a blurriness. So actually there's a huge sign that we're having inadequate sleep and sleep deprived. Okay, so what happened here is that we will have problem focusing and recalling things. Like for example, if at home, right, if we are cooking, so maybe we might put the wrong seasoning, or we may put too much of a salt, forgetting that we have already put it. Okay, so that's a disaster. Okay, and other than that, we might have problem making decision and planning. So that adds to our frustration, like, okay, now should I do this first or do that first? Or suddenly someone calls, hey, let's have an online meeting now. Oh, shoot. So should I do this or do that first? So that's how it adds to our frustration. Okay. And in the midst of this chaos, right, poor coordination and balancing caused by sleep deprivation or insufficient sleep will make an accident to happen easier at home or at work or actually on the road. Yeah. So that's how actually sleep will affect our A, affect B, body and behavior, C and cognition.
Wow. Okay, thanks, Carmen has summarized the effect of inadequate sleep in just A, B, C. Right?
Yeah.
I guess it has continuously highlighted how important sleep it is. So we're not getting enough sleep, basically it's affecting a person as a whole. So from the brain down to the toe, and even affecting the social or the people around around them as well. So it's kind of, yes, so it sounds like something that really have to be addressed in that sense. But for your opinion, actually at which stage or at what point they should actually seek for medical help?
Okay. So some of us maybe we will have sleep deprivation maybe for a few days, or due to some stressful events, like maybe for me I have to give sharing discussion, that's why I have sleep problem yesterday. So some people maybe have like a few days of sleep deprivation, or some maybe have a few episodes. But if the effect of the sleep, the insufficient sleep, cause any serious dysfunction in your daily life, like you can't work properly, or even when you tend to drive to work, it actually cause you some minor, okay, before it causes an accident, like you feel that you are not in the right mind of doing things, I think that is where you need to seek medical help for sleep concern.
I see. How about those? I mean, like for us, we have for those who have still a good sleep, what sort of a characteristic that we should actually spot from the people surrounding us, so that we can at least probably we do not face the issue, but we feel that someone is facing the issue, so that we can alert them. So what sort of characteristic that we should take note of them?
So like what I've summarized just now is their ABC. Their effect. Of course, if someone naturally they are more cheerful, they are patient, and then suddenly you find them become more and more frustrated, or become grumpy, impatient, I think there's something. Maybe it's not about sleep, but there's something not right with them. Maybe it's just good for us to ask, hey, are you okay? Anything happened with you? So we can see what's happening with them. So of course, if you see their body language, their body, so or someone who is tired and not refreshed, maybe the way they walk would be quite slouching, or the speed that they walk is very slow, or they have maybe some of them are a bit disoriented, like they cannot suddenly they don't know whether they should go left or right, or they suddenly forgot, oh, what should I do now? Actually, what should I do now? Provided that he or she is not naturally someone like that. Okay, someone blurred. And also about their cognition, same as well. Like recently, this person, my friend, keep forgetting stuff that cause major problem. Maybe there's something happening. Not to say it's like, only sleep, but maybe there's something happening. So it's good to actually ask.
So it seems
no
like
harm.
we need to detect some abnormal or unusual behavior in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Like probably can you just share in the sense that how can we actually initiate a conversation that it doesn't look like okay, because somehow some people or some of us can feel awkward to open the conversation, you see, because sometimes we try to protect someone's feeling to be more reserved in that sense. So is there any particular tips from you to initiate a conversation at least?
Okay. This one maybe I can share later. Junwei can put some input lah. Normally when so normally it's of course because we live in Malaysia, right? So some of us we don't want people to be so kepoti, right? Like okay, why are you suddenly asking me that? Am I really so something wrong with me? So it's good, right, to just ask, hey, how are you doing lately? And of course, when you want to specifically point out something is not right, we normally don't say you, like we don't normally say you, like, oh, no, recently you are forgetful, da, 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 da. But we just use I language, so we start with what I notice, because what I notice, it may be not necessarily be what it is really happening to the other person. So we just use it I language. So I noticed that recently it seems that you quite maybe something out of place happened to you. I remember that last time you were quite cheerful, but recently something has changed. Is there anything happening around you lately, like something like that? Yeah, you don't just straight away ask, hey, recently you're very impatient. Now what happened? I think if I ask you, you'll be like, huh? Okay. Yeah, so you start with what you notice first, then slowly you can ask, and you of course have to see if the person if it is the right time, right place to talk with the person. You don't talk it on the train or in front of a lot of other people. Yeah, that's what I feel.
So what I can hear from Carmen is that we just have to be open to discuss about it. First is to use the I language to say that I noticed this, I observed this, I remember last time it's like this, and now it seems to be like this. So the I language is generalized, is to show that it's their observation, but it's not everyone observed as such. And then secondly, is Gamal also mentioned that that discussion should be in a private place so that you can also protect someone personal data per se, the privacy per se. I think it's two good points. Correct. How about Junmei? Anything to add about this?
Right. I think one of the things is quite important is that we need to keep in mind what is our aim, all right? So our aim when we do that is that I just want to share about my concern, that I concern about you, I care for you, just express your concern in that way. And it's okay, if they don't feel like seeking help at this point of time, because for a lot of people, right, like for example, you tell me something, then I need to go and seek help. Wow, who are you? Right? So that caused a lot of problem. So one thing when we want to do this kind of suggestion or recommendation, right, it is very important for us to learn to respect their decision, and you must be okay with prepared to hear that they will reply you with a no. Okay, so if you can accept that they might reply you with a no, then you are ready to approach them, because you will not, kind of like keep pushing them. Hello, I just told you yesterday, right? Why are you not go and see it? You will go into that kind of difficult situation and kind of like pressing others. But then if it's like the case is you see that your friend is because of not having enough sleep and all that, they feel so torturous, and then they suicide. That is a different case. You don't just respect their decision. Different story. Okay, that one you should call 999 and call police and call ambulance already.
Okay, so it means that we really somehow really have to judge, and also the point is that when we initiate conversation, we do not force someone to make a decision on the spot at that time. So we just just need to show our concern as a first, and then at the end the decision have to leave it to them. But of course, in certain scenario, it's so severe that it may have societal ideation, societal thought. Then we really have to alert that person more, or to be more caring about that person situation then. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, I see. So you can see that actually inadequate sleep really affecting a lot. Sometimes now it's like we also leading to the conversation, the societal thought. So it's really that something we can't take it lightly at some point. We really have to deal with it mindfully or even sensibly in that sense. Okay. Anything else that you guys still want to add on in that sense?
That's all from me.
Okay, good. So then it will lead us to the next. So since we are talking about inadequate sleep, we have understand the sleep process and so on, probably we will hear from you. What is the tips that you would like to give the audience so that you can help us, or somehow help us to sleep better per se?
Okay, so to have a better sleep, right? So first now we'll talk about sleep hygiene. Maybe some of you have heard about it. So sleep hygiene is also be known as like good sleep habit. Okay. So in order to have a pure and clean sleep, all right, so there are certain do's and don'ts. Okay, so firstly, we need to sleep and wake up regularly to train our body in getting used of time. Okay, that's why it's very important to try to sleep only when we actually feel tired or sleepy, rather than spending too much time awake on the bed. Like I know some of us like to live on the bed, like everything you put on the bed, then you stay there for the whole day. Of course, I know it's comfortable, but if you constantly do that for too long, our body will not be able to learn that, okay, bed is for sleeping. When I'm on bed, it's time for me to sleep. That's why at night we'll have some problem falling asleep. Okay. Also, and at night, right, when we have problem falling asleep, some of us may like to stare at the ceiling or rolling left and right, hoping just that sleep will knock us out somehow, that we can just fall asleep. But I think it doesn't actually work that well. Okay, so here's important is that if we couldn't fall asleep after 20 minutes or more, so you get up and do something calming or boring. The best is actually to just sit on a chair or sofa and literally do nothing. Just
Can
nothing.
sit on the bed then?
No, sit on a chair. You wake up from the bed, then you sit on a chair on the sofa and literally do nothing. Nothing.
So,
Okay, so until you feel sleepy again and then you return to your bed and try again. Okay, that could help us to fall asleep easier. Okay, and also
I
at the
think
same
Carmen,
time,
just to interrupt, when
Yeah.
they say, I guess we have to emphasize is that doing nothing, literally nothing, in the sense that not even holding phone and scrolling the phone. Am I correct?
Yes, not even taking your phone. Don't take your phone, you just sit there like doing nothing. Emphasize again, nothing. Okay.
Not even reading in that sense?
Nothing. I mean, the best is
so the
do
key is
nothing.
to do nothing.
The best is do nothing lah. Okay, but of course there's some variation, depends on individuals. Like something calming. So when you say reading book, right, if you don't read something that can arouse you more, like maybe some of us read manga or horror story, you don't read that, it will keep you awake even more. It will make you feel excited. Okay, and also at this point, right, one important thing is that no clock watching, because some of us when we cannot sleep, right, we tend to see what time is it now? Actually, it's not good to do so lah, because other than clock, right, I think 99% of us now we look at our phone. So the light from our phone can keep us to be even more active. Okay, and also looking at the time will make us to become more panicked, as in, okay, let's say like tomorrow morning I have to wake up at 8 in the morning. So when I look at the time, oh no, it's 3 already, that I haven't fall asleep. Oh no, if I don't fall asleep now, then I won't be able to wake up, then I will get late. Okay, so you become more panicked in this sense. Or it could be the other way around. Like, okay, I wake up already, it's 5, it's only 5 in the morning, I still got 3 hours. If I don't get adequate sleep of 8 hours, maybe I will get mistake at work, then I get scolded by my boss, and then I'll get fired or something. So when we get panic, right, it's even difficult for us to fall asleep. That's why it's good not to look at our clock too much. Okay.
So basically, again, is not to make us aroused, not to make us stressful.
Yes. And also, like I think just now I mentioned, right, for having a good quality of sleep, what we do during the day is also matters. That's why even if we have a poor quality sleep the night before, it's still important to maintain what we do daily, maintain our regular routine and schedule. Do not avoid activities or taking long nap just because we feel tired, because it will disrupt our inner biological clock. Okay, so the key things to remember from sleep hygiene is sleep and wake up regularly. Get up and do something calming or boring if you can't fall asleep after 20 minutes until you feel sleepy, and then try again. And no clock watching, third one. The last one will be keeping a regular routine and schedule. Okay.
Wow, what a number of tips from Carmen. How about you, Wei?
Right. On this, right, I think it's good to point out that how we can establish a sleep ritual. You know, so sleep ritual, you think about it, so it's like a constant way of doing things. If you look at kids, right, kids, what usually happen with them is that they go to bath, and then they will get their parents to read the bedtime story for them, right? And then the next step, sleep, right? So it always goes in this way. It's very clear, you know, it's bath, and then bedtime story, and then sleep. So this is what we call the sleep ritual. So if you have this kind of ritual, it actually prepares your body for sleep, because your body can kind of like roughly estimate how much time it is away from sleep, and then prepare to secrete the kind of hormone to help you with your sleep, you know?
Yeah.
So because we are adults already, not likely, okay, maybe someone might still be interested in bedtime story, that's fine. So for those who feel that bedtime story is not for them, then maybe they can try out something that is more what we do more usually. So we can try something like, for example, mindfulness breathing. All right. So this thing, we can also introduce this at this end of our session. We can do it together, try it together. Yeah. And for example, you can also try out deep breathing. Yeah. So like those yoga kind of breathing method. Yeah. Or otherwise, you can try out muscle relaxation, progressive muscle relaxation. You relax different parts of your body. Stages, right? Not stages. It's systematically like different parts. And then otherwise, you can also you go look for guided imagery. So guided imagery for sleep. So kind of like bring you to imaginary place and think about things that will help you to relax, right? And also be careful with what you read. Like what Carmen said just now, if you read like horror books and then you think that it will help you to sleep, that's good luck to you, right? And same thing, it's like what kind of music do you listen at? Do you listen at the soothing kind of music or rock music? If you like bang 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 bang, then you think that you can fall asleep, that's again a good luck. And also what can also help is that you can also take a hot bath like before 1 or 2 hours before sleep. So that kind of like at first it rises your body temperature, but then you sweat to cool it down, right? So that process of cooling down, it mimics the pattern of our body temperature when we are about to sleep. Our body temperature actually goes down. So it will help you to get a better sleep. Yeah. And I think, right, this is also something important because like what Carmen mentioned about just now, we have this internal biological clock thing, right? So this concept is actually rather important because it actually affect how we regulate our sleep, right? Part of the sleep ritual and also can be tied into this concept of internal biological clock. So let's say to help you to understand this. So let's say we travel to a place that has a time zone difference of 12 hours, all right? So we arrive at that place, it's night over there, but then in our home country, it may still be in morning and we can't fall asleep despite it is nighttime over there. Yeah. So why is it so? That's because our internal biological clock is at work, So, and how this concept plays out in the case of MCO is that with the start of MCO, right? So that what we have mentioned a lot just now, the boundaries between work and personal life, it's significantly blurred, We are always in the same place, same light, same environment all the time. And what that do to us is that our body get messed up. It cannot differentiate the time that will prepare us for sleep. And so one thing we can do for our body is to go to bed and waking up at the same time every day. And that includes holiday, so that when it is about time, our body will begin to secrete the kind of hormones that will help us with our sleep. And remember, our body doesn't know how to differentiate what a holiday is. You cannot tell your body, tomorrow is Labor Day, so I'm going to sleep late. No, your body cannot differentiate that, okay? So our mind only understands that, and our body doesn't know how to understand that, all right? So taking extra naps or sleep for leisure during your holiday, it actually will not help you to maintain a proper internal biological clock, because it kind of like disrupt it. You kind of like kickstart, take a reset button over it, right? So the body is going to think that, oh, okay, so right now is the time that you are going to change the internal biological clock. Yeah, and if you go into that way, that is the highway to go into all those sleep disorders, all right? So in short, go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, including holidays. Yeah. Carmen, do you have anything to add? You're on mute.
Sorry. So sorry. Yeah, so like what Junmei has said, right? Having a sleep ritual actually could help us to sleep better. But there's also other things that we can do is to have a conducive sleep environment. Like I think just now Junmei mentioned something about inner biological clock, and I think that's sound and light, right? Okay, so of course there are 4 key things that we need to take note about our surroundings, sleeping surrounding. That first is sound, temperature, safety, and lighting. Okay, so if you are someone who is sensitive to sound, right, so try to see if there's any possibility of reducing unplanned noises, if there's any lah. Okay, so one of the ways that is recommended is to use a foam earplug, or maybe your earphone will be helpful as well. Okay, some of us, in terms of sound, some of us may prefer to play soft and soothing music, like just now what Jimmy said, like when the music that you play during sleep ritual. Okay, it could help us to fall asleep as well. I remember that I have a friend, actually he used the white noise, the static sound tape to actually help him to fall asleep. So if some of you may can try as well lah. Okay, some of us maybe will prefer the low familiar tone, like the sound of our fan in our room, actually to help us to doze off. Okay, and that's about sound. Next is about temperature of our bedroom. So generally in Malaysia, okay, it's recommended to have 18 degree of Celsius to 24 degree of Celsius in our bedroom to help us to sleep. However, this figure actually differs across different people because we are constantly under the hot sun, and not all of us are sleeping under air conditioning. Yeah, so that's why it's important for us. Maybe we might want to experiment which temperature is the best and most comfortable to promote our sleep. Okay. So next, like to have a peaceful sleep, right? I mentioned just now, all of us in Malaysia, we tend to, if we are not sleeping in air conditioning, we might rely on fan or natural wind. So this is where the concern of the safety comes in. Okay, so to have a peace of mind, remember to check if it is safe to open our window wide before going to sleep, so that we won't spend our time worrying about our safety during our sleep. Okay, and then last would be lighting. Just now, what you may have said, right? It could disrupt our inner biological clock. That's why sunlight actually will activate our hormone to keep us awake. And even for bright direct light, right, it will keep us awake as well, because our body may already learn that, okay, if there's light, it's time for me to wake up and work. And this same goes to the concept of staring too long on our screen because of the lighting. Yeah, so it's important to check our environment. Is the sound, temperature, safety, and lighting is conducive for our sleep.
What if they can't really control the lighting in that sense? Is there something that they can do to cover the eye of some sort?
They can use eye mask. You're asking about light, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, there are ways to do that. You can, for curtains, you could use the sun, the one that block out the sunlight, or you could wear eye mask. I think eye mask is the most convenient way for us to use it for now.
Yeah, it's a good idea, because probably not everyone they have how to say, they occupy the whole room. Probably they're sharing rooms. Sometimes someone is doing work and so on. Then probably the lighting is a bit hard to control. So as you mentioned, probably the eye mask is good to look into. And also just now I mentioned the earplug as well. Right? So it seems like there's actually a lot of factors to look into, especially giving out the tips. So environment, the temperature, the ambience, the sound, the light, and so on and so forth. And of course, it's not to say about the stress inside us. So if you're stressful, unlikely we can sleep. And surely looking at the phone is not helpful at all. Right? It's not promoting sleep in that sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think quite a number of tips given. All right. So probably one more is that, how about in terms of food then? Is there any particular food, based on your reading and so on, is going to promote sleep in that sense?
Wow, that sounds more like a question that you should be answering, huh?
I know, right? I know, right?
From you first. Yeah, because often when we talk about sleep, we talk environment and so on and so forth. Probably one is they will ask, people always want to know is there any food that really promotes sleep, or any particular nutrients that really helping from your perspective, that sense, or based on your practice and so on, or anything that they should avoid at least?
I think that's a question from Kafu. Okay. In terms of what I usually know is food to avoid rather than food to take. Maybe that one Kafu can answer if anyone can know. So some food that we avoid to take, right, normally is nicotine, not food. Like, I don't think there's food, but substance. Like nicotine or food, it may be the most popular one with caffeine. Yeah, caffeine, alcohol, and I think it's important also to address about sleeping pills. Okay, so actually,
why particularly sleeping pill need to be concerned? Because a lot of people will say that if I can't sleep, why not I take a sleeping pill per se? Probably from you would like to clarify on this.
Yeah, so that is the way how actually people would think about sleeping pill. If I can't sleep, let's just pop a few pills, then I'll just sleep like that. But it's not to say that you can't take sleeping pill, but it's actually important to remember and understand that actually sleeping pill do not cure sleep problem. It only serves as a band-aid, like for emergency purpose. Okay, and that's why it's important to avoid habitually, means too frequently using sleeping pills, because our body will start depending on them, and we will need more pill to reach the same effect that we want, which we normally will call intolerance, and that could lead to addiction with some of the brands of the sleeping pill. Okay, and also along the way, when we feel that sleeping pill are no longer effective when tolerance occurs, we might tend to take more pills, hoping that we can gain its function back. However, this is how dangerous that a sleeping pill can be fatally overdosed, because we just take, and then we don't know, and it becomes overdose.
So from dependency now become overdosing.
Yeah. So there's something that needs to take note if someone wants to take a sleeping pill, and also some pills may cause side effect, maybe drowsiness the next day, blur vision, clumsiness, or even nausea. Okay, and if some of our friends are taking prescribed sleeping pill and wish to stop. So I believe it's very important to talk to our doctor first, because to taper it off gradually rather than to stop it. Like when you think, oh, I no longer have sleep problem, I can just stop. But it's actually quite dangerous for sleeping pill, because like I say, there's tolerance and dependence addiction. So if you stop suddenly, it could actually make this sleep condition worse.
True. I guess it's a very good point highlighted, because a lot of people really think that sleeping pill help the situation, but of course probably the acute situation that really the sleep quality is get affected. So a short-term use of sleeping pill seems to be good, and certainly we also need to look into what the right dosage and how long we are going to use, so that we try to avoid the unnecessary consequences from happening. Okay, now probably just to share about food. Any other tips from Chumai?
Right. I think it's also important. Like, I don't know where Carmen is right now. But let me supplement her with the part about caffeine and alcohol, because I think a lot of us, right, we will think that, often I hear from my friends that, when they have problem with sleep, then they just take some alcohol. Then they will go to sleep easier, right?
Yeah.
But actually, it doesn't work that way. Because when you drink alcohol before your bedtime, what it actually does, remember we talk about 4 stages of sleep, right? So that will actually lead you towards staying afloat at stage 1 and stage 2, and not so much into stage 3 and stage 4. Right? So it actually helps people to fall asleep, because it acts as a depressant. It helps us to relax and all that. But then it also has this side effect that it does not lead us into this deep sleep. Right? And as for nicotine, not nicotine, it's caffeine, right? So caffeine, for people like me, I'm super highly sensitive towards caffeine. All right.
Yeah.
So it's nice, I like it, coffee and tea. I love it. Yeah. But then what it actually does is it is also activating a lot of stress hormones in us, and it interferes with the release of the sleep hormone, what we call melatonin. All right. And also it can be absorbed very quickly, but how fast we actually break it down, it actually differs across people. And for some of us, even though you drink a cup of coffee at 3 p.m., right, and then maybe 1 a.m. already, you still find it difficult to fall asleep. It has not fully flushed out of your system, right? So the best possible, try to avoid taking caffeinated products, before 2 to 3 p.m. Yeah, and also it very much depends on your body. If you realize that 2 to 3 p.m. or you still can't sleep, move to 12 p.m. If still cannot, 10 a.m. Right?
So a lot of experiment need to be done.
Yeah.
I actually also agree on that because I guess the same goes to the issue of sleeping pill. So people may think that alcohol may help sleeping, but most of the cases it may not happen per se. And even some people probably take alcohol to make them better sleep. Probably, actually, it's not the alcohol that promote the sleep per se. Probably they cause a certain psychological effect that thought that they actually have a good sleep in that sense. All right. And I agree to Juman have mentioned. So alcohol probably have to bring forward a bit. And most of the time we say that late afternoon probably is the latest that you can consume alcohol if you do experience some sleep issue per se. And of course, another thing is caffeine use, because a lot of people, when they're not taking enough sleep, then they will take a large dose of caffeine, or they rely on caffeine to stay awake. But actually, when we do such a way, at some point, we may actually affect our biological clock, or it may even affect our sleep more. So it's not helping in that sense. So and hence, there are also recommendations saying that take alcohol probably the latest would be late afternoon, but not in the evening per se, so that it can promote, it will not affect the sleep later on. So to highlight, caffeine doesn't mean that it just comes from coffee. Even carbonated drinks also contain caffeine. So chocolate contains caffeine as well. So we have to be mindful, and same goes to tea as well. So in terms of food, I think we have highlighted some of the key ingredients that we need to our audience to be aware of. Yeah, good. I guess we have pretty much to share for tips. We have a lot to take home instead for all those tips to promote sleep. Okay, so before ending, and just now I heard from Joey will to mention about the mindful breathing. Actually, what is it all about?
Right. So mindful breathing is it's something that is in the rising in the States and across the world. Yeah, right. So this is coming from one part of mindfulness-based therapy. All right. So what we want to achieve with mindful breathing is to be mindful of our present, because a lot of time, even though, let's say, people who are listening at this talk right now, they could be distracted by something else. You know,
Correct.
when they are looking at when they are playing this live right now, they could be working on something else, maybe folding something, folding their clothes, you know, or maybe washing plates. I don't know. All right. So there are many different things that we can be doing. Or maybe as I'm speaking right now, then the person could be thinking about something else. So although we are sitting right in front of our device, but we are not mindfully in the present. We are living in something else. And what we hope to achieve through mindfulness is to bring us back to the current, back to the now. Because a lot of time when we are about to sleep, right, and then a lot of people will find this very interesting time. They'll start to think about the major philosophical questions about life, you know, and then that's like whole days wasted there, right? So if we can bring ourselves back to the current, back to the present moment, then we can help ourselves to ground in the here and now. Which is to help us to attain better sleep.
So in the sense, normally, how is it? Is there a specific technique that can bring us back to present?
Right. So what I'm going to introduce next is more towards scripted thing. So this scripted thing is I borrow it from the UCLA school. All right. So it's UCLA mindfulness breathing technique lah. But then actually mindfulness we can do it in different ways. Carmen, would you like to share some?
Pardon?
Would you like to share about the mindfulness tips? You know, based on our senses.
Okay. So if my client, normally I will recommend this to my client. This is something simple that we can do actually. Simple that we can do based on our senses. Okay, so it helps actually to ground us in the present, like what you may say now. Okay, so what we actually do is it goes from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, again 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So first is to have to notice your surrounding, any 5 things that you can see, 5 things. Like for example, now I can see laptop, bottle, cup, tissue, okay, something like okay. Then another 4 things that you can feel. Maybe you can feel the chair, the hardness of your chair, the softness of your chair cushion or table. Okay, so you 4 things that you can feel, and then 3 things that you can hear, like the fan, the wind, the rain, the thunder. I think this one pretty much a lot. And 2 things you can smell. Maybe you can smell perfume or refresh, some perfume that you put at home, fragrance. Okay, and 1 thing you can taste.
Taste.
So taste, yeah. So you taste your maybe okay, this is a bit weird. So maybe if you are not eating anything, so you can taste. Okay, so how do I taste now? So my saliva, how does it taste? It tastes a bit. So just now I ate, let's say just now I ate sweet, minty sweet. So now it tastes a bit minty. Okay, so is it too strong? Oh, it's actually not too strong, like something like that. Yeah, so it goes by 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. But actually, some simple mindful things that we can do, like what Junwei said just now, is to just focus what you are doing right now. Like, if you are actually hearing our session, just hear our session. It's also called mindfulness. Or if you are eating, we have something called mindful eating. So just to focus on the food, the texture and the taste of your food. So that's what mindfulness is actually about. It's about the presence, grounding yourself at now, what you are doing right now. Yeah.
Okay. So just now, because we have mentioned seems like mindful eating is something that very easy to incorporate into our daily life. And then since we related to the sleep, so for those who are unable to sleep, the mindfulness will also be helpful to bring a noisy mind to a calmer mind per se. Am I correct in that sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
So saying it seems to be easy to bring the noisy mind to a calming mind. So actually, to do this, so using the 5 that you have mentioned will be quite helpful in that sense. Can they actually just focus on one thing so that it will not be so complicated? For example, to be mindful when you're asleep. So close your eye, imagine one number, and then you keep focus on that number. Would it help in this way, in a sense, to be mindful?
If in my opinion, that would be more like a distraction method. So being mindful is actually what we notice about ourselves. I think later Jimmy will share about something about our breathing, mindful breathing. So what we notice about ourselves, what we recommend we can do if we have problem falling asleep, is to focus on our own breathing. Like you can do it either with your eyes closed or your eyes open. It's no problem. Just focus on your breathing. What we have inside of us, already inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I
it
think
seems like
Jimmy can
breathing is
share.
something that is easy to look into.
Yeah.
Yes, Wei, the ball is yours.
Right. So why we choose mindful breathing is also because we need to breathe, otherwise we die, right? So it's something that is very present in every single moment. So when we get lost in ourselves, we can always guide ourselves back to our breathing, and breathing is the here and now moment, right? So I'm going to borrow everyone's time for 5 minutes. All right, just stay with me for 5 minutes, and as we go through this, experiencing this mindfulness strategy. All right. Okay. So if you feel that it would be useful, you might want to close your eyes gently. Close your eyes. All right, and I'll be giving some instructions. All right. So if you are driving and all that, please don't close your eyes. All right. Please make sure you are safe first. Yeah. All right. So find a relaxed and comfortable position, seated on a chair or on the floor on a cushion. Keep your back upright, but not too tight. Hands resting wherever they are comfortable. Tongue on the roof of your mouth, wherever is comfortable. you can notice your body from the inside, noticing the shape of your body, the weight, touch. And let yourself relax and become curious about your body. See that here, the sensations of your body, the touch, the connection with the floor or the chair. Relax any areas of tightness or tension. Just breathe, soften. And now begin to tune into your breath in your body. Feeling the natural flow of breath. Don't need to do anything to your breath. Not long, not short, just natural. And notice where you feel your breath in your body. It might be in your abdomen. It may be in your chest or throat or in your nostrils. See if you can feel the sensations of breath, one breath at a time. When one breath ends, the next breath begins. Now as you do this, you might notice that your mind starts to wander. You might start thinking about other things. If this happens, this is not a problem. It's very natural. Just notice that your mind has wandered. You can say, thinking or wandering in your head softly. And then gently redirect your attention right back to the beginning of your breathing. So we'll stay with this for about 1 minute in silence, just a short time. Noticing our breath from time to time, getting lost in thought and returning to our breath. See if you can be really kind to yourself in this process. And once again, you can notice your body, your whole body seated here. Let yourself relax even more deeply. And then offer yourself some appreciation for doing this practice today. Whatever that means to you. Finding a sense of ease and well-being for yourself on this day. Right now, gently feel the part of your body where you are seated right now, and slowly bring your senses to all different kinds of senses that you have, the light around you, the smell, the touch, And when you are ready, come back to where you are right now. Right? So that will mark the end of this mindful breathing that we are sharing. Yeah, I hope you find something useful in this process for doing this mindfulness practice with us here today.
You know what? Suddenly my room is very quiet. Okay, I guess the mindfulness really bring us calm in that sense. It's where that if we really realize that how come my environment becomes so quiet? It shouldn't be in such a way. Okay, I guess everyone will get benefited from it. Definitely, I guess as a start, you will find it awkward, and you will definitely require to take some time to learn this technique and also to bring ourselves into a calmer environment. And hence, it will then promote good quality sleep because of the calmness it brings by the mindfulness breathing just now. Right? I guess a very good tip set to share with all the audience too. Okay, now I guess we have already shared a lot of tips for better sleep. All right, so I believe that the audience will be able to benefit from this. Okay, now I guess we definitely will need to talk about since we bring both of you in with the psychology background, is actually what is the connection behind it. So probably both of you can share with us what's the role or what can a psychologist or counselor help to promote a good sleep or to address the issue of sleep. Yep.
Carmen, you go first.
Okay. So in addressing your question will be what would be a role of psychologist or counselor, right, to do in terms of sleep concern. Yeah.
Correct.
So I believe, right, in addressing this question, it would be helpful firstly to help the community to understand that actually there are different types of psychologists out there. Okay, so like me, I'm a clinical psychology trainee, right? So we specialize. So clinical psychologists specialize in train in access and treating clinical mental conditions. So in this case, would be sleep wake disorders. So if you compare with work psychologists, they are actually not trained in this area. So if we have any sleep concern, a clinical or counseling psychologist, right, would be the person that we should go to. So in terms of what we can do in terms of sleep issues, I think from a clinical psychology perspective, it will help to improve the factors that actually affect their sleep in terms of their affect, behavior, and cognition. Okay, I think in this sense that maybe Junwei can share some about what counselors would do in this sense.
Right. Same thing. I'm not a counselor, all right. I'm a counselor trainee, all right. So it is also very important to learn about this differences of clinical psychology and also counselor. Yeah. So for whereas in this term, yeah, when we are talking about sleep disorder, so as you can hear from Carmen, is that clinical psychologists, they are trained more in assessment and treatment for clinical mental condition. Yeah. So the role of clinical psychologists and counselor in this case will differ only by a bit. So clinical psychologists can do the part that includes assessment, but of course, if a counselor that has gone for specialization training in treating sleep-wake disorders, right? So then they can play like the similar roles, like the same role, all right, in terms of treating sleep problems, as long as they are properly trained in this area. Yeah. And if you do seek out for this service, please make sure that the clinical psychologist that you go for, they should be registered with the Malaysian Society of Clinical Psychology. All right. So this is like the professional body that clinical psychologists will register themselves under. All right. As for counselor, go for someone that is registered and licensed, and you can check their information at Lembaga Counselor Malaysia. All right. So that is like the professional organization that governs all the professional counselor. So if someone is in these two these two professional bodies. So it means that they have at least meet the minimum requirement to provide quality mental health services. All right. I hope that helps to answer that question. You're on mute.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I guess you have summarized quite well. Both of you have give input whereby what is the role being a clinical psychologist as well as the being a registered counselor. How is help people that we have with sleep issues per se. So both of you definitely have the contribution to help people with some sleep issue, especially those come with mental issues. Okay, and I guess we come to almost the end, and we have learned a lot about sleep. And of course, I guess we have the most discussion. We'll talk about the tips for better sleep just now. Okay, so Bobby, to end the session, all right. So I will want to hear from both of you. Bobby, you can give the last few pieces of advice, especially for those that who are considering to take up the program psychology, or those that were going to enroll to the program psychology. What sort of advice that you would like to give to them?
So your question is, are you asking psychology program in IMU or psychological program in general?
I guess in general, what sort of advice you would like to give to them? So, for example, how they're going to score good marks in the university, or what do they how do they enjoy good life in university or some sort? Or what do they think about probably like to approach a registered counselor to talk about their prospect and so on and so forth? That kind of advice.
I think prospect with a counselor, maybe Junmei later can share. For me, I will share maybe from my point of view being a psychology alumni in IMU. So if any of you would like to enroll in a psychological course, I think the first one you must have is passion to learn about and to be curious, to be curious and passion to learn about because human is actually quite complex. So there's a lot of things, like today when we talk about sleep, we can see, right, only asleep, there's a lot of factors that could affect one factor of human. So in terms of taking psychology, we need to be curious about, okay, so other than what is already provided on what is given by lecturer, we ourselves also need to be curious and search from other sources, other more recent and evidence-based research to actually improve our knowledge and to complement what's already what we learned in the lecture. And also, other than that, being curious, also one we could have is to have also is to, for me, my experience would be know how to manage your time in terms of learning. I think this one applies to every university student, because it is only through assignment and the work given by lecturer that I find it I learn more about psychology, anything in psychology throughout my life in IMU. So,
Okay, I think I get 2 points. One is to stay curious. All right. So number 2 is really to make good use of your time when you're studying, to learn from lecturer, learn from doing assignment and so on. So really have to make good use of the time when you are still in the university, and have the opportunity to learn everything about psychology per se. Good. How about you, mate? What is your tips?
Right. For my tips, I think I would also like to point out that how I came to choose IMU back then, right? So actually, different university, they actually offer different kind of specialization courses. You can look at what kind of courses they offer, and then whether if it matches your interests and your needs for your future career plans, right? So back then, I found that what IMU offered was really interesting, and it fits my interests, and that's how I came to choose it. And it's also very important for you to go for a program that is accredited by MQA. Otherwise, you are just throwing money into the sea and hoping something will come back, right? And for our field, right, we actually need at least a master's level of training, all right, to call yourself as a proper psychologist, or if you want to do things that are more clinically related. Because with just a bachelor degree, the things that you can do in terms of working with clinical population will be very limited. However, having said that, if someone studies a psychology degree, they can work in any kind of field, all right? Any kind of field except in the field of psychology, all right? So for example, with a bachelor degree, the person cannot become a counselor in Malaysia, right? Because psychology degree doesn't prepare you to be a counselor. That's a two different thing, yeah? So don't sign up psychology degree and then you hope that you will become a counselor. Two different things, all right? And you also cannot become a clinical psychologist just by completing your bachelor degree. You need a master's degree in that, right? And also, I also like to point out that you see, what we are presenting here for the both of us today is quite the stereotypical field that people will go for in psychology. When people think about psychology, it's always about counseling, or otherwise it's clinical psychology, as if there are no other type of psychologists in this world. But it's actually not the case. So there are a lot of different kinds of psychologists. Yeah. So for example, we have got health psychologists that work with diabetes and all that, gambling disorder, addiction, and all that, right? And also we have got sports psychologists that trains people, those athletes, in terms of preparing them for those competition and all that. And also human factor psychology. So for example, if I were to create an iPhone, what kind of button should I put and where should I put it? What about the camera? Which place of this phone should I put it? How big should the phone be? Yeah, that will become, that is what we call the human factor psychology. And we've got social psychologists that studies the interaction between humans, and we try to understand how people interact with one another in a social environment. So there are actually a lot of different kind of psychology. So don't restrict yourself to think about that I should only go for counseling or clinical psychology, otherwise I'm doomed. No, a lot of options actually. Yeah.
Wow. So the field of psychology is very broad and wide. So we shouldn't be just be superficial in that sense. So really have to look into the person's key interests and later on to specialize in in a very specific area, let's say. Okay, good. So today I guess we really have discussed quite thorough in terms of sleep. So sleep is not something that everyone should take it for granted per se. So sleep process can be quite complex actually, and also the process happening in our mind. Just now we mentioned about 4 stages in sleeping and so on. So it's actually so much to learn about. And of course, we really have to emphasize again, if someone that really have a sleep issue, I think be open and then look for a solution, or probably to look for a medical help would be quite useful per se. Because, well, we shouldn't be ashamed about our own health. If we really have some health issue, we really have to stand out and look for necessary assistance or support per se. All right, and of course, we also have mentioned so much about the tips given to promote good sleep too. All right, and I guess today the session we have taken 1.5 hours. Already indicate how important the sleep is, and of course, the sleep issue that we need to address on. Okay. Lastly, I would like to, of course, on behalf of the IMU Alumni Association, to thank Junwei and also Carmen to give your input to discuss about sleep today. And it's indeed our pleasure to have you on board too. All right. So I guess to wish you all the best, and also thank you for your input, and thanks for all the audience to listen to us. Again, if you like our sharing section, and by all means to give us like and also share. Okay, and we hope that in coming we also will discuss more and invite psychologists or counselor to discuss different issue too. So if you have any idea that is suitable for us to discuss, by all means, so put it down in our comment box and we will look into it and organize accordingly. All right, thank you so much for everyone, and hope that you have a good session and enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.